a diverse group of women from different parts of the globe, actually, that have registered with us, as well as from different industries. So that's so amazing to see. We thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free to drop a hello in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Please note that we will be recording this session and it will be made available as soon as possible by our wonderful marketing and communications specialist, Dana. I, Shanta, along with my phenomenal executive team members, Susie, Amal, Elise, and Krista, who can't join us today, welcome you to our Ottawa Teens Career Development Trilogy final event, Leaving Imposter Syndrome Behind. We're honored and so thrilled to introduce Sheila Goldgrab. She is founder of Goldgrab Leadership, creator of Women's Leaders Habit Lab, a master certified executive coach, and writer on leadership for Forbes.com. And without further ado, I now hand it off to Sheila. So take it away.
Thank you, Chantha. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I'm really honored to be here and to talk to women in leadership, your members and your guests who are on here. Hello, everybody. I hope that this hour is valuable for you. I am setting out to make it so. So our topic today is leaving imposter syndrome behind with new habits. You've already heard from Shantha a little bit about me, so you know that I'm an executive coach. I've been doing it a very long time, over 25 years. I can't believe that. And I also write for Forbes, as you already heard. And the reason that I put some of these client organizations at the bottom of this slide is simply because I've done some habit work inside those organizations. I've also chosen them because they're matrix large organizations. And in particular, it's important to note that they have male-dominated disciplines in them, maybe life sciences, financial services, engineering, those kinds of things. And with the habit work that I'm going to talk a little bit about today to address imposter syndrome, I'm really addressing it's useful for everyone, so don't worry if you don't fit into this category on this call, but I'm really addressing those mid-career and senior women leaders who are in either male-dominated organizations, businesses, maybe fields. Okay, great. So let's start at the beginning. Let's define what imposter syndrome is. What is it? So it's the nagging doubt that you aren't performing. Your success is luck, or so you say. It's not earned. Your skills aren't where they should be, at least that's what you say. And you feel like you fooled people and you're going to be caught out. So basically, you aren't worthy, you're not good enough, and you don't belong. So what I want to say to you firstly is that it's important to understand where this idea came from. I wonder how many of you, and you can raise your hands or put a thumb up on the Zoom, know that the origins of imposter syndrome. There were several women researchers who actually in 1978, so not that long ago, did some research of high-flying career women and discovered that they had this nagging sense of self-doubt, which they called the imposter phenomenon. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear syndrome, I hear disease. And so I want to lift us up from that concept of disease to something very different that's far more natural. That's the first thing. The second thing is imposter. It's imposter syndrome. And there's something that suggests some criminality about it, like we are pretending to be something that we're not, that I find offensive personally. And I hope that you do too.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Love it. And the other thing is that I want to tell you that it was two women who did the research about women. But what they did not know then, and that we know now, is that imposter syndrome is gender agnostic. And by that, I mean, it is experienced by women, but also by men. I've been coaching a long time. I coach imposter syndrome, and I can tell you for certain that men experience it as well. However, women have something different about them. Well, sure, they have a lot that's different about them, but in particular, when white men progress, their feelings of doubt abate, they lessen, and their work and intelligence is validated. And it's not always the same with women. So those white men might find role models who are like them at higher levels, right? And then there rarely is their competence, their leadership, and their contributions questioned. But that is different for women. So my main point is that everyone suffers from it. Have you seen this illustration? Thumbs up if this is your experience or you have been in a meeting where you have observed this happening.
Too many times.
Yeah, okay. So gender credibility is really just very simply when the listener discounts what the speaker is saying. And let's just be really honest about this, because I think we're seeing this playing out on the national and international stages, especially South when we look at the United States. Society is deeply conflicted about how women should exercise their authority. You know, I'm thinking about Kamala Harris in particular. And this contributes to our negative feelings. In other words, we internalize it because people don't listen. We feel we're not worthy. Am I right? Yeah. All right. So how many of you know Mindy Kaling? Not personally, it's okay. But you know about her. You know, she's an actor, producer, she's a comic, you know, she's a director. And here's what she had to say. I rarely have the feeling these days where I'm in a room and I'm like, how did I get here? Because, and I can speak for a lot of women of color when I say, we know how we got to the top. We were there an hour early and we left 2 hours after everyone else. Okay, that's her comedic side clearly coming through. And although there's a grain of truth, she's just pointing out the opposite. Why is it that we women, women of color and others, are being so perfectionistic that we stay longer, we work harder? I mean, my husband often asks me, who answers your emails on Sunday night? And the answer is other women who are working. So that's something that is my experience in any case. Want to introduce you to a concept, and it's called the competency trap. All right. So the competency trap is staying with what you do well at the expense of growth. And this is really important. Let me explain. The more you do something, the better you get at it. Follow so far? Okay. And the better you get at it, the more you like it. And this keeps on continuing, so much so that you may be reluctant to give it up and do something else. And that becomes important in your career because as you prove that you're ready for advancement, you need to do it a little bit differently. And I'll say much more about that. But right now, I'll just say we get to be victims of our competency traps, those things that we do so well that for those of you who study economics, you know this concept, the opportunity cost. I don't want to let go of the thing that I do so well because I might not do that other thing as well. And then I feel vulnerable. I might even fail. So you know what? I'll just hang on to this thing. But hanging on to this thing that you do so well isn't going to get you promoted. And that's what we do as women and men to get in our own way. So what is the sticky problem? Acquiring new skills is not the problem. And your capacity to learn a new skill is not the problem because you learn new skills all the time. We have to look ourselves in the mirror. And really the problem is mistaking that habits that got you here will get you to where you want to be. It is what I'm proposing to you today, a matter of your old habits that are keeping you exactly where you are and stuck there, not moving forward. So let's talk about that. Shantha told you that I do the women, I started the Women Leaders Habit Lab, which I deliver inside of organizations. And what I'm saying is that old habits can lead to your imposter syndromes. We don't have the time to do the Habit Lab. It's a comprehensive program, so we're not doing that today. But I'm going to give you a little taste of the discover phase. And then later, I'm going to offer a gift to the people who are here who have registered for the webinar, and then also an opportunity to take the program. I'll say much more about that later. So it's a 7-week, highly interactive live laboratory. Change needs new habits. So here's a little bit of what it looks like. Firstly, there are 3 phases, as you can see. So the 3D principles are discover, design, and deliver. So discovering why, we become a community, then we identify your change style, because creating new habits requires change, and everyone's different. So the one size fits all here for habit formation does not work, no matter what anybody else tells you, no matter what other books you've read that tell you the 7 ways to form a habit. Nuh-uh. And then flagging unhelpful behaviors means what are traditionally, when I say traditionally, I mean classically, the things that women do that get in their own way. And I've identified the 7 patterns that happen over and over that research tells us. And my own experience as an executive coach has informed me to know that what these are. Then over to the design new habits. So this is an opportunity. We now know how to do it. So taking you through habit formation, then because we're in a community and this is a laboratory, trying the habit out, finding out what the wins and fails were, tweaking the habit sequence, because it's not a single action, it's a sequence, and then making it work. And then finally delivering change. We're not machines. And even though we say, for example, we want a promotion or we want to be a more effective leader or manager, we don't always do what lines up with what we are aspiring. So taming temptations means what are the pitfalls that we can anticipate? And then what are the strategies to make sure it doesn't happen or to address it when it does? And then celebrating new stories with your team and also those people who you mentor. Making the move is making the move to advancement. So leaders have predictable passages. Their habits shift focus over their career. What am I talking about? I'm really talking about moving from doing the work, and by that I mean executing, being maybe even the order taker, to basically managing. So what I mean by that is delegating and inspiring. In other words, getting it done through others rather than having you do it on your own. And then the next transition, expert, knowing the answers, knowing how to do something, transitioning over to being the coach, to inspiring others and assist them to learn. So in other words, moving from the know-it-alls to the enablers, the supporters of other people's learning. And then finally, moving from the manager who monitors people's progress and they know what and how to do things, transitioning over to leadership. In other words, finding the destination, visioning it, finding your why, finding your team's why, and helping them stay engaged. These are 3 among many transitions we make. There are other ones like specialist to generalist. Anyone recognize, let's say, the specialist to generalist? Thumbs up through Zoom. Or are any of these the analyst to the integrator, the tactician to a strategist, the problem solver to the agenda setter, the person who identifies the agenda, not just solves the problem, and maybe the warrior or the gatekeeper to the diplomat, finding new options. Those are some of the passages. And what I'm going to suggest here is that when you aren't flying at the right altitude, meaning you don't make those transitions, it sparks these feelings, and you're going to recognize them because they are the bad feelings we have when we're feeling imposter syndrome. So let's go through them. Insecurity, doubt, fear, stress, and dread. The worry of being found out, because we aren't actually talking, we're not actually performing at the level as a leader that we should be. Okay. So we're coming close to having some Zoom room interaction, because I know you're all on mute, and I would really like to have you have an opportunity to kind of play with this stuff. So firstly, some unhelpful habits. As I read these out, or you're reading them out, just start to think about which one is your priority to move away from. So is it getting it done with low visibility? Is it solving instead of coaching? Is it going it alone instead of bringing people along with you? Is it mostly always saying yes? So we're going to have a breakout right now. You're going to be in rooms of 3 people. And the question for you to discuss over the next, let's give it 8 minutes, is which of these unhelpful habits are you currently doing? And what is the impact? You need to answer both those questions. So again, getting it done. If you need to take a snapshot with you into your breakout rooms, I encourage that. Getting it done with low visibility, solving instead of coaching, not enlisting allies, or saying yes too often. I'll leave that to the organizers to put you in breakout rooms, and we'll hear a little bit about what you discovered when we come back to plenary. Have fun.
Sheila, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you explain what you mean by getting it done with low visibility?
Sure. You know, when you have your head down and your sleeves up and you're just getting it done, but other people who are responsible for talent management in your organization don't know anything about what you've accomplished. Sometimes not even your boss. They know what you do. I mean, they have the job description, but they don't know what your accomplishments are. You're doing it in the dark. Does that help, Naz?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions before we move in? Thanks, Naz, for going and asking. Yeah, great. Con.
So what does it mean by not enlisting allies?
Well, that's a great question too. So thanks for asking it. There are people in your organization that in order to do any, let's say, big thing, you need them to know you. You need to be in relationship with them. They could be peers or they could be your boss's peers. But without them, all you have to do, what you would end up doing is going through your boss your boss to get it done instead of you getting it done. So being in relationship with others. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Okay, snap. Let's go into breakout rooms.
All right, you should get an invite now.
Just so you know, I turned down going into a room so that people could have privacy.
Thanks, Sheila.
Although I am interested. I'm really interested.
I want to sneak into one too, but I can't. I set the timer for 10 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, how are you doing? Yeah, we're doing.
I also have the power to close the rooms as well.
Yeah, you know what? 10 minutes is great because then at 10, you'll close the room and it'll give them 60 seconds. So we'll really give them 11. That's fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I think I was missed to be placed in a room.
I'll put you in.
I switched devices. Sorry, maybe that
No
trigger.
worries.
All right. Okay, I'm gone now.
Great. Have fun.
All right, I just have to enter a room because Ruth is asking for help. This is very.
Yeah, no worries. gonna open the window for a bit. It's so hot in here. It'll shut it. Have you put the recording on mute?
No, actually. Do you want me to? I will pause the recording. That is a good idea.
And they'll all be told that it's 60 seconds anyway, so they'll wrap up. Hey, welcome back. We're just waiting for everyone to come back. Welcome back, everyone. Just waiting for more people to come back. Hey, hi, Susie. Oh, you know what? Maybe we could take them off mute. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Sheila. It's nap time, so I'm in low whispers.
oh, got it. Okay. Were you in a breakout room? And if so, how did it go?
It was wonderful. We shared which of these bad habits resonates the most with us, and then how it actually negatively impacts our lives. We talked a little bit about some strategies to mitigate them too, like did a little bit of sharing. So it was great. It was wonderful.
Amazing. Great. Welcome back, everyone. How are we doing? Oh, do we have everyone back?
No,
I
we're at
think
19.
Or 19, so we're
yeah,
waiting.
we have a couple of groups. I think they're just still talking.
Oh. Are you able to bring them back?
It says I have a little prompt saying that they will close automatically in 30 seconds.
Okay, very good. Great.
I'd like to welcome Rama Muse from Wage. Hi, Rama.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
How are you? I've been trying to connect with you for some time now, Rama. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. It's really a big pleasure for me to be here. And I just met Amal Wahab from the Ottawa chapter. So it's nice. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone.
Yes, Susie, I got to talk to her.
Oh, great. Good. It looks like we're all coming back in. So welcome back. So we gave you more time. Did you notice?
Yes, absolutely. And we didn't stop talking.
Oh,
It
that's
was still not enough.
That's fantastic. So you may not be surprised to hear when I tell you that we're not going to be able to hear from all of you. 117 people were registered. Not all those people were here. Hi, Tiz. But I do want to hear from some of you. So maybe just a couple people pop and we'll have one of the organizers unmute you. What I'd love to hear is what are, either a pattern, like did you notice any similarities among you in your breakout rooms? Whatever, it might have been the unhelpful habits, or it might have been a strategy that you want to use and you all agreed to it was a good one. Or anything else that would be useful for all of us collectively to learn from you. We're going to spend a few minutes here. So maybe the way to show that you're interested to get unmuted is to give us the thumbs up. And I know there'll be more than we can handle, but we'll take.
I think we gave all of the attendees the ability to unmute themselves if they wanted.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice. Love it. Okay, who's courageous? Who wants to go first? Like I said, we will only be able to hear from a few of you, so give us something juicy.
Okay, I'll go first. So something that came up in our group was the fact that we can be pleasers. And so we say yes all too often. And, you know, maybe we need to be better at evaluating opportunities through a better lens, a return on investment, meaning our time or our energy or what lost opportunities or whatever.
And yeah, that is, I wouldn't have said it any better than you just said it. Like all of it, the whole package. Yes, yes, and yes. So what I often say is that at the beginning of someone's career, saying yes is fantastic. It shows you're a team player. It shows that you have a positive, receptive attitude to do anything that's asked of you. And that's all good until it's not. And as your career progresses, those things, saying yes too often, is not helpful, because you need to be a gatekeeper for your team. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn your team out. And I met a young woman, Danielle and others, at a conference that I was at, and I was sitting at her table. And she told us the story about how she has, at the time, had a leader who was her mentor and who said to her, you know, I'll call her Mary. Mary, it was really good when you said yes, because you were an order taker. Now you're a manager. And so you're no longer an order taker. And I'll never forget that, because I think we all go through that stage, and some of us we're still doing that. And that's not right. Yeah. So thank you. And it's to you. Thank you, Danielle. You just, wow. That was a wow. Thank you to you.
was.
Yeah. Let's hear from someone else.
I'll go.
Yeah.
So on our group, we actually connected all 4 of the habits because they sort of feed off of each other.
Yes.
We realized that, like, by saying yes too often, I tend to, like, still shield my team from some of the things that I've said yes to.
Yes.
And so I go it alone and I do some of these little tasks that don't get a lot of visibility, and I'm solving them instead of enabling other people to solve them. So we sort of like connected all of them in a way.
I think that was very smart of you and the group, Madeline, because they are interconnected, aren't they? And it might be, you might be listening to this and saying, well, I do one, but I don't do all 4. Yeah, sure. You don't have to check them all off, but they are naturally interconnected. So if you can reframe, Madeline, from just where you're at, which is to say, you know, doing all these things and working in the background. Let's just talk about one of these, like doing it so that you can get visibility. Or which one would you want to pick? Do you want to pick 1 or 4? Saying yes or getting it done with low visibility?
I would say probably my worst one is saying yes.
Okay.
What I tend to do is I recognize sometimes that I've, you know, said yes to something, and I want to keep my team focused on what they're doing and what our actual goals are. So then I tend to pick up those small little tasks that come in, and that's how the rest of it all falls.
Right. So I get it. So they do the important work, but you pick up the small little tasks. Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did everyone hear that? Because you're protecting them from getting distracted.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave that with you, because I think more than just you, Madeline, I think many people on this call can relate to that. Thank you for you and your group. And we have time for one more.
I'll go.
Excellent.
I wanted to bring up something that some of the women brought up in our group, which I thought was really incredible. But the going it alone came up quite a lot throughout our group. But what some of them shared today was that now with this working from home, this whole low visibility and going it alone has been even more entrenched and more reinforced. And so that makes it even more challenging. So I thought that was a really good insight today in sort of our new world and some of the new things that we're facing. And we might have felt that in the workplace, but we're feeling it more at home alone. I thought that was a really important insight that came out of our group today.
100%. So, and the strategies to get out of that are exactly the same, except that you can't just step into somebody's office and just share your accomplishments or anything. But there are other ways to be visible and make sure that you are seen as ready for promotion. And so if you have a tendency, a habit of just going it alone and doing it in the dark with the in the closet with the door shut, then this is the time to break out of that old habit. Yes, it reinforces, but it is not impossible. It is absolutely possible. And with that, I am going to transition to not much of a transition, but just reinforce old habits that get in the way, right? So a habit is more than a once and done action. Many of you in the group started moving to strategizing, am I right? And that's a healthy thing because you're not stuck forever unless you say you're stuck, unless you say you throw up your hands and raise up the white flag of surrender. But the thing is, changing a habit is not a once and done action because you know what happens. You do it and then you forget. You go back to what you used to do. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is it's time for new habits, not just a single action when you remember, but a new habit. Did you know that, I wasn't even going to bring this up today, but what the heck, they say 40 to 90% of your day is habitual, meaning you're on autopilot for that much time of the day. Let's be conservative and say 50%. 50%, a half of what you do is habitual on autopilot. Imagine that. I'm not even talking about productivity hacks. I'm talking about leadership habits. So why is it that women are not moving to the next level? Many reasons that are organizational, societal, but when it comes to where you can have control, it's about changing your habits and planning them and designing them so that they are lasting. So this is where I want to transition. I want to share 3 people's stories. They are all alumni of the Women Leaders Habit Lab. These are real people. This woman's name is Shannon. I'm certainly not going to be telling you her organizational name or her last name, but she's lovely. And she wondered what more she needed to do to get promoted. Like, what do I need to do? I don't know if any of you have felt that, like what more do I need to do? That frustrated feeling. So her belief was, look, I'm a strong performer and that I don't get attention from my boss is great. It means that and this is straight out of her mouth, she's busy with the problem children. That's a good thing, right? And many of you who have your heads down and your sleeves up are thinking, that's good. You know, my boss allows me to work independently, doesn't fuss with me. I'm in good shape. But she realized when she was overlooked for promotion that wasn't enough. You can imagine how surprised she was. So what she decided to do was to get visible. And to make a very long story short, she began sending weekly achievements to her boss every Friday at 3:30. Now, I get that it is a change of a mindset as well as a habit, but it's incredible how doing changes your mindset. We are so trained to think and reflect and strategize and then change. And I'm suggesting something different and it works. So what happened? She actually got promoted. So she moved from getting it done in the dark and assuming that no news was good news to actually escalating her accomplishments on a weekly basis. And by the way, during the Habit Lab, 2 weeks into this new habit, she came to the community to say, you're not going to believe this, but I heard back from my leader in response to the accomplishments that I've been sending her weekly. And we're like, yeah. She says, no, you don't get it. This is huge. You know, they're a distributed work team geographically, even before the coronavirus, right? And so even just hearing from her boss was huge. So what I want to say to you is the results here were tremendous. She was promoted and she now leads a far bigger team. Here's Yoon. And she's an ambitious person, and I love it because I know a lot of women are ambitious but won't admit it, or at least won't say it out loud. And when we met, she said she wanted to go bigger and she wanted to go better. But she had a challenge, and that is that her boss kept on saying, "You're always intervening with the deliverables before it gets to me," her boss said, by changing things up. How many of you can relate to that? Thumbs up, please. You're changing what your team has done before it goes to your leader. Yes. Yeah. Okay, great. So she said, well, I'm just improving on what my team has done. And so what she needed to do was shift from the know-it-all expert that we talked about a little bit earlier to the coach enabling other people's learning, right? So that's a really important move to make. So every Friday at 4, she reviewed the upcoming week and delegated meetings to team members. She had their independent development plan open, and she started slotting them into meetings that she typically would go to. Amazing. Now, you might think, wow, how's that possible? She got promoted? Well, let me explain why she got promoted to be a VP from senior director in a different business. It's really clear. Her boss saw that she didn't need to be the expert in order to lead. Let me just say that again. She didn't need to be the expert in order to lead. She needed to shift out of the subject matter expert, the SME, to the leader. And once she proved that, they placed her, get this, guys, inside another business she did not know, nor did she know many of the people or have relationships with many of the people in the business. So she didn't know the business and she didn't know the people because she had proven that she could lead without being a subject matter expert. Does that mean she didn't care about the knowledge, the technical knowledge required for the job? No, of course. Of course, she's onboarding and she does. Get that? Pretty awesome. And then finally, Julie. When I met Julie, who's an engineer, she said, I'm introverted and really I'm allergic to networking. I love the way she put that. And she also said, I'm an introvert, so it's hard for me to make allies. And between us, she also said, I can't even remember people's names after I first meet them. Like, it's just not my thing. I've been told I need to secure allies. I get it, but I don't do it. I can't do this. And then she came to the Habit Lab and she started enlisting allies. So what she did was she created a networking log and she made weekly entries and followed up with meetings. Why did she get promoted? Actually, this month is when it's going to be announced, March. She got promoted very simply because what happened was there was a business transformation. In other words, business restructuring. And in the past, Julie, and let me just explain the transformation. Her job was to pull resources from other areas into her group, okay? So typically, she wouldn't know those people in those other areas at her boss's level. So typically, her team would get together, kind of put things together, and then bring them to her boss in order to get introduced to his level. She didn't need to do that this time, because she had enlisted allies. So when her and her team got together, instead of going over and down, she just went to her boss's allies and had coffees and had conversations to bring resources over to her organization. Boom, her boss said, you're ready. Pretty impressive. How are we doing on time? All right. Maybe just a minute or two on comments or questions about any of the case studies. Let's hear from you. Impressive, no? I'm impressed with them.
Absolutely impressive.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I have a question.
Great. And your name is?
Fatina.
Okay, great. Fatina.
So for the last person, for Julie, so you said
Julie.
that she networked with people like maybe her boss's boss or her boss's peers.
Her boss's peers, yes.
Right. So how could that by her boss maybe seem like overstepping, or how would she get around that if like her boss felt like, oh, why are you talking
Yeah,
to
I get that.
them?
Thanks for that question. In Julie's case, her boss was really supportive. I mean, her boss had been encouraging her to do this for a long time, so that was a no-brainer. But I hear your question. How do you do that without feeling like you're overstepping your own leader? And that would be by having a conversation with your leader about why you would want to bother, for example, like why you would want to do this. In other words, for example, if your boss's peers maybe are clients of your teams. Maybe it's a listening campaign to just have coffees with all these people to find out what their needs are so that your team could better serve them, as an example. Or it might be that in the back of your mind, you're trying to find a mentor. And often in many organizations, they discourage you from having your leader as your primary mentor. They want you to have someone else. And so it could be that you're having conversations about your career. The idea is that you are building relationships with people, either at any level. In this case with Julie, it was her boss's peers. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, that does.
Time for one more?
I have a question.
Great.
But it's
Professor Shirley?
My name is Shirley, yes. It's not related with the cases though. It's something that it was inconclusive when we got the session rooms, because the people that I was with, one of them just know about the imposter syndrome and the other person didn't experience that or didn't. So I was the only one. And how do you deal with imposter syndrome when you're just starting in your career? I work in the nuclear industry, so sometimes I'm the only woman in the room or in a group.
Thanks for asking
I feel
that question.
Yeah, I have to prove myself constantly.
So when you start your career, proving yourself, it's a natural place. And not just starting in your career, but also when you're promoted to the next role. Naturally, imposter syndrome or the phenomenon comes up because you are learning, because you are aspiring, because you are striving, because you're going up the mountain of a steep learning curve. So clearly you are not functioning at the level they expect of you. That's why it takes a year or two. I'm not saying a year or two of imposter syndrome, but a year or two to really feel comfortable. That's why organizations typically don't promote people earlier than 1 or 2 years, because you really need to stretch into that role and feel comfortable. So that's the first thing I would say. It is natural. So it's not anything you just sort of dismiss. Oh, I don't want to feel this. Get friendly with it, but don't let it stop you from moving forward. Okay, don't let it have you by the short and curlies. Get friendly with it. The second thing is, if you're an only, for example, you're the only female, or you're the only non-heterosexual, or you're the only racialized woman, then of course you are going to feel it more than others likely do. And so there are many things that you can do, from, getting vulnerable and finding your tribe, finding the group of people who have some shared values, or maybe, distinct in the way that you are. Many organizations have allied groups. That might be something you seek out and you participate in. There are many things that you can do. But yes, that is the dilemma that we are facing, because organizations were built typically, traditionally, by white men to design with their values, their days, like their lifestyles in mind, not women and their lifestyles and their values necessarily. So thanks for asking that question.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'm going to move on and just start to wrap up. Here's the imposter syndrome webinar in brief. We talked about believing the gender credibility deficit, so we internalize it, and then all of a sudden that really just enhances our already well-established imposter syndrome. Now, flying at the right altitude at your level means that you haven't really finished the transition. Oops, I did it again. The transition that's meant for you at your level. And then sticking to what's worked is that competency trap. The more you do it, the more you like it, the more you like it, the less likely you're going to give it up and do something different. So saying yes always worked until it didn't, but you're still saying yes. And then old habits are the ones that hold you back. So it really is time for new habits that move you forward. Now, I did promise that I would give a special offer to those people who are on the webinar. And this is what it is. I do the 7-week highly interactive habit laboratory. It is 7 weeks. It's an hour and a half, a call on Zoom on Thursday mornings. It starts the next, I always do this inside of organizations. However, I'm providing a new public series, meaning you won't all be from the same organization. You can be from diverse groups. So it's 10 women in mid-career or senior female leaders. It starts in April. It's 7 consecutive Thursday mornings beginning at 9:30, except for session 1, which is 2 hours. And there is field work during the week. I'd say it's intense. And when I say intense, I mean like, it's not like you just sit there and habits happen on you, like you stand outside in the spring and it rains and you get wet. You need to do stuff, but it doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't take over your day job or anything like that and keep you busy every night. It's not like that, but I do want to present it properly. So here's what I'm offering. Firstly, if you want to pre-register for the series, like just even say, hey, I'm interested, or let's have a conversation, then just go to the leadershabitlab.com. Or maybe you say you were interested in getting updates about future public offerings, because these days don't work. I may offer other future public offerings. And then the gift is basically what women leaders ought to know. So you already heard that I write for Forbes.com. And so what I did was pool 3 articles that I curated on women and habits and leadership and that kind of thing in one document. And you can have that free of charge if you sign up at leadershabitlab.com. And the early bird offer is really simple. If you've paid in full before March 22nd, because the seminar begins on April 1st, then you'll get a bonus hour in a group. So anyone who has is an early bird will get an extra hour beyond the 7 weeks as a group. All right. So any questions about anything I just said before we just we really wrap? All right. So in that case, I just want to thank you and swing it over to the organizers to just handle any final Q&As.
Thank you so much, Sheila. We can probably take another question if anyone has a question.
I have my hand up, my virtual hand up. Could I ask a question, please? It's Susie.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
Hi. So this pertains to your first, I guess, your first habit, as well as the first case of getting visible. Sheila, I know that you know, I have struggled with taking credit for my work, and I'm going to ask this question on behalf of a woman who was in my breakout room as well, whose VP is currently taking credit for some work that she's doing. And she's you know, what is your advice to women on how to get visible and maybe advocate for ourselves?
So I'm not sure I get the situation, and the question is, how do we get visible?
Yeah.
Right. Anyone have any answers of strategies that have worked for you? You likely talked about them in your groups, and for some of you, it is not an old bad habit. You do this.
Absolutely. And this is Shanta. I can share because we are actually talking about that problem as well in our group, and I have that problem myself. And what I've started to do is just getting ahead and sharing all of my deliverables and all of my achievements every time I meet with my lead. And I actually have a skip level coming up in April, and I'm going to lay out all of the same achievements and really force the hand to say, you know, this is what I'm expecting in my career, and I need you to basically drive it with me. So not asking anymore, just saying, and then demanding. And that's what my approach is going to be now.
Shanta, that was fabulous, really great. So instead of asking for permission, just basically telling. Yeah,
absolutely.
Really nice. And I see a lot of nodding heads. That struck home for many people. How much time do we have, organizers? Do we have another minute?
I think so. I mean, we have about 4 minutes. So Susie,
Clearly,
she'll begin to share our event. So one more question, absolutely.
Great, let's hear it. Yummy. What you got?
Hi, my name is Christine. I'm wondering how much, like when we're looking for validation, that it actually comes down to communication styles and us being really aware of how we want to receive information from our teams and how that kind of addresses some of our stress or some of the validation that we're looking for from our teams and from our leaders and all of that, where sometimes we're not really aware of how much we want to receive information and feedback and that validation or confirmation of how we're doing in our work and things like that.
So a question for you. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name and I can't see it.
Christine.
Christine, oh, there you are. Christine, great, awesome. What I'd say is, my question to you is, do you meet with your leader on a fairly regular basis?
We do, but we're also in transition where we're doing recruitment and reorganization within our team and all of that.
So when things are, more static and, maintaining rather than havoc, chaos, and transformation, who designs the agenda for those meetings?
The managers.
You mean the people that report to you, or?
No, the people, the directors are the managers above me.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So it might be that there's a conversation that you might want to have to say that you would like to identify some items on the agenda as well. And that's the opportunity to tell people about tell your leaders about accomplishments. This really works. It works so well in the Habit Lab that as soon as one of the more recent Habit Labs that I did in a big computer company, tech company, when she did it with her leader, he said, this is so positive that when I meet with all my direct reports, all you senior leaders, I want to start every single meeting as the first item on the agenda on what's working well. Because I'm so tired of hearing all the things that are not working well. So 2 things then, help have those meetings and have a conversation about putting an item on the agenda that you get to drive, and start by saying what is going well and creating positivity. Actually, I'll tell you one other thing that I just remembered the leader said, which is, I'll just make up a name. Susie, this is the first time that we've had a conversation one-on-one where it wasn't like all the problems that you're escalating to me. So, and that stunned her. I hope that helps, Christine. Great.
Thank you so much. So we're at the top of the hour. Just want to say thank you so much, Sheila, for joining us today. And thank you everyone for your participation and the engagement and the stories and the insights. Before we do take off, I want to hand it off to Susie to share the upcoming events.
Yeah, great.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, so we've got a fantastic roster of events coming up this month of March. The first is on International Women's Day, March 8th, and it'll be a panel of founders from Uplevel People Partners, as well as Mama for Mamas, and Dr. Marina Adshade from UBC. And the next one will be March 11th, and it'll be from a great crew from Amazon to share with you their successes through the organization and how they could help you propel your own business. The next is going to be hosted by our very own Heather Van Munster from the West Coast, from Victoria, and you can join her as she talks about some self-care strategies for that are essential to effective leadership. And finally, the speaker series, storytelling by industry leaders from Toronto WIL chapter and IBM. So that's March 25th. And if you're interested, go to the Women in Leadership website to find the links to register. They're all free events. Thanks everyone for joining.
That's great.
Wonderful. Take care, everyone. Please fill out the survey questions if you have a minute. And thank you so much again.
I put my LinkedIn in the chat, by the way, and if you're interested in the Forbes published articles, I always repost them on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Sheila. If you guys haven't read her pieces that she has contributed to Forbes, please do so. They're amazing. They're transformational.
You got me this gig.
That's what started this. I was gonna say the sun's
It's
in
true.
my face now, but that's what started this. So
yeah, that's so cool. Thank you guys so much.
thank you so much. I learned so much and it was so great to hear everybody else's stories.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
So we're just having the participants wind down. Thank you so much, everyone, again. Oh, I love the comment about the breakout rooms. That's fantastic. We loved it too.
Yeah, the breakout room was crazy. I was like, okay, so can Sheila and Shanta and everyone still hear me while we were talking?
No, it isolates you, so it's really great.
Yeah, I love that. And I think 3 was a good number where it's like,
it is.
It's intense. It's like, oh, we all got to talk here. Okay.
That's
really,
it.
Yeah. No hiding. You got to be visible, right, Sheila?
Great. She's gone now. But my breakout room, we got very personal, which was wonderful.
Yes, it allows you to do that. It absolutely allows you to do that. And I just find, yeah, that number, Amal, it was great because it gave you enough time to say what you had to say and share and bump ideas with each other. Hi, Maya.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you so much. That was such a great session. Really appreciate you guys and all the effort making it happen. I loved it and loved it. Yeah, the breakouts were great and yeah.
Wonderful.